What's up, YouTube? It's your girl, Crystal, and I am back with another review. Sorry, I have been away. I haven't done any reviews since Matilda and the Best Man chapters, but I am so glad to be back and reviewing my new favorite sports movie, Creed 3. Now, Creed 3 dropped about 2 weeks ago in early March, and it stars Michael B. Jordan as Adonis Creed. He also directed, which is not easy, and bravo to that man. And Jonathan Majors, who comes in as Damien, the villain, nemesis, past, what have you. Now, other than this movie being just absolutely beautifully shot, Michael B. Jordan says that he wanted it to feel personal, like you were in the ring with the fighters, and I felt that. It was shot on IMAX cameras, which I think is super dope. I think it's the most beautifully shot sports movie of all time. I think going forward, anytime you do a sports movie, you're going to have to meet this this bar, because now we have the blueprint, right? We really saw the sweat dripping down these beautiful men's bodies, and all the ladies like that, I'm sure. But not only that, the punches, the just all of the things, it just felt so intimate. I really felt like I was in the ring, like I was one of the coaches or trainers or something like that. It was really dope. So bravo to Michael B. Jordan for even having the vision, with his DP and all of his other team, just to make this one look more different than the other two Creeds. Now, this movie also stars Tessa Thompson. She comes back as Bianca, Adonis's wife, and also the mother of his child, who was played by the wonderful Mila Davis-Kent, who I think is going to be a future star in this. I do see some things, and I'll get to that later with her character build out. And her name, I'm sorry, in the film is Amara, which is beautiful. She's a beautiful little girl. And brilliant casting, because she actually looks like Tessa Thompson. It's really cool. I also, Wood Harris comes back, Felicia Rashad comes back, but we're introduced to Selena's Levy. Well, I know her from Orange is the New Black. She played Gloria on there, one of my favorite characters, but she is the mother of fighter Felix Chavez in the film, who is being protéged by Adonis and their gym. He's the heavyweight champ at the time. Well, I don't know if he's heavyweight, sorry, but he is the champ at the time of the film. And he's just, he's trained with the Creed crew, and now he's at the top. And that is until Damien comes along, but we'll get to that. So the film starts out with a flashback. And if you know me, I am a sucker for backstories and flashbacks. That is my theater background. I'm just a sucker for them, because all characters, they don't just start on page one when we see them. They don't start, if you go to a play, when lights are up, they had a whole backstory and a whole life before you see them even appear on screen. So I love the fact that Michael B. Jordan chose to give Adonis a backstory, so we could see a little bit more of who his friends were, what his life was like before he became the Adonis Creed that we know current day. So we start back in the day, I believe the year is 2002. And Adonis is sleeping in his bed, and his mom comes in and she says his name, and he's fake sleeping. And then the next thing you know, Adonis is sneaking out of the house, and he meets up with his friend Damien. Damien looks like he's about 5 years older than him. I don't know the exact age, but he's much older than him. And they're going to like this underground boxing area where Damien is a fighter, is a prize fighter, Golden Globe champ, and he has this fire in him. He fights. Maybe it's not exactly about the sport, but he fights for his life in the ring. I compare it to Tyson. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's my opinion of it, because I felt like back in the day when we saw Tyson fighting, it wasn't quote unquote the boxing style of like just pretty and poetic and things like that. I really felt like Tyson was fighting for his life in that ring, and that's why it was so powerful. He would hit so hard and knock people out in 20 seconds. Y'all remember that when your parents used to be mad that they paid the 54.99 and the fight would be over in 20 seconds, and then boom. HBO would not give you a refund, but they would not prorate the amount. So I felt like Damien had a little bit of Tyson in him. Besides biting, he didn't bite any ears, but he just fought with a just an intensity. It was an overall intensity, and I want to say bravo to the casting of this film for the backstory because young Creed was played by Thaddeus Mixon, and he looks a lot like Michael B. Jordan. He has the mouth like him. Just it was just brilliant. And then Damien was played by a Spencer Moore. And he has that intensity. He may not look exactly like Jonathan Majors, but he has that intensity like him. So I really like that. So the first, I don't want to say act, but that first intro of the film is the backstory, and we really get involved into these child characters and who they became to be. And then we fast forward to 15 years later, where Adonis wins his bout in South Africa. And I'm loving the parallel of your past is always there if you don't deal with it. I love that whole theme. Even though you're this accomplished fighter, you have all this money, you live in a beautiful mansion, you have a beautiful wife, a beautiful daughter, but there is something about that past if you never dealt with it. And I'm not just talking about Damien, talking about Adonis's bout in juvenile centers or foster homes when he was younger. He never dealt with that trauma. So those things come back up in your adulthood. So after all of the flashbacks and everything, we see that Damien and Adonis got into some trouble where Damien pulled the gun because Adonis had saw a foster parent from his past that used to beat them. And he just snapped and wailed off on him and beat him up. And then Leon's friends jumped little Adonis, and Damien has a gun. Police come, of course, right on time, because, you know, the cops are always around. And Adonis runs off. He runs off. You know, some people say that's cowardly. I don't know. You don't know. He was a child. I'd give it, maybe Adonis was what, 13, 14 at the time, I feel like. Maybe Damien was 18, 19, something like that. You're gonna run. You're a kid, right? But Damien never got over that. So next thing we see is that Damien is back. Adult Damien, he leans on his car, and that scene's been going around on social where he's like, "You don't remember me, do you?" He was like, "Damien, oh man, what's up, man?" So he takes him to the hood for some food, and Damien looks really broken. Of course, that's what 18 years of prison will do to you. But there's something, before I heap all of the praise on Jonathan Majors and his subtle intensity, there's something about getting out of prison and having to adapt to this life, but you also see a friend from your past have the life that you should have had. Damien says he put the gloves in his hands. When they were children, he was carrying his bag, his gym bag, and things like that, which we did see that was true. And it's like, I took the rap for you. I didn't snitch, could have, but I didn't snitch. And you never even wrote me. You never did any of that. And that's what he says, like, I wrote you. Oh, I never got those letters, Adonis says. And we find out later that his mother held those because she didn't like him. He was a bad influence and things like that. But little did you know, your son has a little bit of rage in him as well. So, you know, the next thing is Adonis tries to give him some money. He's like, I didn't come here for a handout. You know, it's a little insulting, but he did come to get his spot back into boxing. That's what he is really back for. He wants his shot at the title. And that's it. He wants to fight for something he feels like he is owed, period. And he will do whatever to do it. Even set up some things to get people knocked out of the competition. because he's an amateur. He's not a pro. So how can you skip the line? This is what Adonis is thinking. And he was like, well, you make it happen. So Damien comes to the gym. He invites him to the gym to come spar and things like that. And they see he's a little dirty. They say a little dirty, because then it gets big dirty later. But I think that's just who he is. That's who he was in his youth, and it's probably been amplified because he was in prison for so long. And that's how he knows how to fight, right? He knows what to do. So just gonna skip through some things here. So basically, Damien ends up fighting Felix, who's the champ, because Damien sets up some things to get his number one contender injured at a party. So Damien, right on cue, he beats him illegally, kind of, where he cuts his face with his elbow, he attacks his arm, he does these things that are just they're dirty, but they get the job done. And he actually knocks him unconscious. And at the time, I kind of thought it would be like, oh no, don't let another Creed thing happen here where someone dies in the, Apollo dies in the ring. Like, we can't, but he lives, but he was knocked unconscious. And they all knew that Damien was not good, but Adonis had that guilt, that survivor's guilt going on. So he put him in position to do this. So he has the belt, and Damien's excited. He's celebrating and all this good stuff with his friends. And then he goes home to visit his mom, and his mom shows him a picture of a gentleman where Damien and this gentleman are taking the prison photos. And lo and behold, the guy that knocks out the number one contender is Damien's friend. So he's like, he set me up. Yeah, read the room, Adonis. Your friend's not your friend. He's coming for you. He wants everything you have because he feels like he's owed to it. You ran off. He caught the charge, never snitched. And the life you have is supposed to be his. And that's all that it is. So he comes to confront him. That's not a good idea. Damien, like, you just saw how dirty he was in the ring. Now you come to him at a party and you want to confront him and you want to come fight and he beats you up. He blacks your eye. Oops. So that's when Damien's like, I'm coming for it all. It is what it is. So he goes back home. And I love this conversation with Adonis and Bianca. She kind of tells him about like her singing and all of these things about her hearing and is it painful for her to, well, she tells Damien this, because he asks her, like, is it painful to have at the time Kalani singing your songs? And she's like, no. He's like, oh no, kind of alluding to, it's painful for me to watch your family because y'all are supposed to be basically my family. You have everything that I should have. That's not true because, life happens. You chose to have that gun. Like, we're all responsible for our actions. Should he have left you in the lurch? Probably not. But you had a gun too. So you did it. You had the gun. It is what it is. So, Bianca kind of tells him, like, you got to start sharing your feelings. You only let me in so far. What happened at the group home? What's going on with Damien? All of these things. And he finally tells her, and they have a chat about these things with his black eye. And he's yelling and he's like, I've just been trying to bury it and forget about it. And it's like, you can't do that. Your past will always come. Whatever you try to bury, it's still there. And it's crippling you. So just say it. Just say it. So eventually later on in the film, he does tell her everything that's happening. And she's like, you got to shut him up. And he was like, the only way I can. And she was like, you got to do what you got to do. So Adonis comes out of retirement. If you're going to come out of retirement, you got to come out to beat your friend up. I get it. I get it. You got to teach him a lesson. He's been running his mouth. He blacked your eye in front of all of his friends. He beat up your fighter. dirty, knocked him unconscious. You've got to come out of retirement and beat him up in front of thousands of people. I get it. So one of my other favorite parts of the film, which was so visually stunning, was the training montages. I remember Gina Prince Bythewood talking about this with Woman King, that the training that they did in there is all character driven. And I never looked at training montages like that in all these sports films that I love and adore. I never looked at it as like they're all building character. You see how they are. If you see how they train, then you see who they are. And I'm like, man, that's true. So we see Adonis. He has, I believe they said a bruised like kidney or something. He has a torn like shoulder labrum or something like that. He's been concussed hundreds of times, uh, a lot of times. So his trainer, Wood Harris, is telling him, like, you sure you want to do this? You are old. In boxing world, I believe he's playing maybe mid-30s or 33, something like that. That's old. So he's like, you're old, dude, but he's going to beat you up. Like, it was just like, dang, were you a motivational speaker in your past life? Because dang, bruh, like that's mean. But he's like, I got this. So he was like, if you know all of your injuries, you can use them. So he's training, he's doing this, and he's sparring with Drago. Drago comes back to spar with him, and he beats him up at first, but then he starts to get stronger and stronger. And one of the things is he's punching this tree, and I'm like, oh my God, hey, that's intense. But then we see the other side of Damien. Damien does these crazy exercises. He does one with some ropes, and he like climbs up on the beach all the way to the top. And I'm like, man, that's intense. Like, how'd you learn to do that? But we saw the behind the scenes footage of that, I think like last year when they were showing it, and it was so dope. But Michael B. Jordan's training regimen was crazy. Like I think one of the montages showed him strapped to a plane, like a mini plane, and he's dragging the plane and getting stronger. I'm just like, man. And in while all of this, we just see the beautiful sweat dripping down these young men's six-pack abs and their backs. And it's the best shape I've ever seen. It was just beautiful. So shout out again to Michael B. Jordan for just shooting all of this. The training montages was definitely one of my favorite things, because you just see how each fighter prepares. Damien prepares very intense, very guerrilla style, prison style, like anything's a gym. But Adonis has this whole boxing thing of poetry, and it's beautiful and sparring and things like that. But Damon just knocks out everybody. It was a very good contrasting of training montages, and I loved it. So next we go forward and we see that it's the final fight, right? It's the final fight. And it it was a little predictable. I will say that's my only critique of the film. Well, I have two. It was a little predictable. We kind of see where the ending was going to go. I don't want to spoil it just in case, because it's only been out 2 weeks, so I don't want to spoil it. But the ending was pretty predictable. But I will say, to not spoil it, hopefully this isn't. I enjoyed it even though it was predictable, because it still didn't end on a happy note. The gentleman, I think, had a resolve, but it was also like it's still tension there, and rightfully so, because you guys just spent, however long that fighting montage was, beating the heck out of each other. They're both beat up, both got swollen faces and things like that. But ultimately, the best man won. Period. But one thing I will say about that last fight, I loved how they slowed down uh Adonis's vision. It reminded me of Biker Boys. I don't know if you guys know that film, where Lawrence Fishburne was the lead of the him and Derek Luke, of course, were the leads of the film. But they both had this vision when they were racing their bikes, where they could center everything, and not they could like not see everything and just be focused on the road that they had to race. Adonis's vision was the same, like he would zero in on your kidney or on your gut or on something and know that that was a pressure point. So he hit it and hit it and hit it, and then that's how he won in South Africa, where he zeroed in on the guy's side here and knew, like, if I hit that a couple times, he's going down, and he did. And it takes the breath out of you type of thing. But also Damien has that gift. There was a shot. Oh my goodness, I'll tell you, and goes to the genius of Michael B. Jordan choosing to do these slow downs or these slow motion bits of punches. There, he zeroed in on Adonis's gut, and like he hit him so hard in one sequence, and you felt that thing. And I even like did like this, hovered over in my seat in the theater because of the slow impact and the zooming in and the slow motion of it all. And it was just beautiful. Like, oh, I felt that thing. If I felt it, I know he felt it. It was brilliant. And that's what I mean about just visually appealing. You got to bring the audience into something. Like someone like me that's not a real big sports movie person. Like I love a couple of them. Loving Basketball, the Varsity Blues is the Above the Rims, White Man Can't Jump, where basketball or football is a character, but it was more just character driven. But I only watch those every once in a while. But this was really good, just visually, of me really being in the ring with them and feeling those punches. So bravo again. But I'll say overall, I love the film. I gave it an 8 out of 10. And the only two critiques I believe as I said, is that the ending was predictable. And also I think Damien didn't struggle enough to adapt to the current world. I wanted to see a little bit of that. I knew he wouldn't struggle with getting back into boxing because boxing is his love and what he did before he got locked up. But I feel like adapting to the world in general. Like I wanted to see him, maybe adapt to what a cell phone is in the new world, or what do you do with a debit card when you go to the store. I wanted to see a little bit of that. But I understand you can only do what you can do in an hour and 56 minutes. And it was not really, it was boxing is a character and the friendship between these two and the lack thereof. But I did want to see a little bit more with Damien just getting out and adapting to, because when we meet him, he said he got out last week. I wanted to see a little bit of that. Like, this is how we behave in society. You've been locked up for 18 years. What is going on with you, and how are you adapting to that? And are you having any trouble? So I did want to see that. But I will say a scene stealer was the little girl, Amara. She is a scene stealer. She is a deaf actor. So bravo. I looked that up right after the movie. I wanted to know because the sign and introducing, I think, sign language and forcing the audience to slow down and really learn ASL, kind of watching them like, oh, this is really cool. She stole a lot of the scenes. And I will say that I can see going forward where they go with her character. I think, at least I hope, because I think this Creed franchise have hit something very, very monumental. And it can continue, and not only with Adonis and Damien, you can bring in other characters and things like that. And I think the little girl, having her grow up in this world, and being maybe a deaf boxer, what does that look like? Right? Because she has a thing for it. There's a scene where she's in school and a little girl takes her poster and rips it, and she knocks her out. She gives her a two-piece and a biscuit, and I was not mad at that. But of course, our mom, Tessa Thompson's like, we can't teach her just to fight. Like she has to use her, other tools and things like that. She can't just, I know that's what that's what she witnesses with you, but we have to live in this world. We can't just fight our problems. That gets you nowhere, i.e. Damien. Um, so I do agree with that, but I do like maybe whatever that's going on, wanting to be like her dad or what have you, maybe using that to spear off the next round. I would love to see women boxers in the next in a Creed film. Baby Creed. I don't know what you would call it. Baby Creed 4. 4 Baby Creed. Oh, look at that. I got it. 10%. If you use that title, I want my 10% for Baby Creed, because Creed 4, whatever. But I like that. I want to see little Amara, uh, little Mila Davis Kent, um, grow up in this Creed world, and maybe be introduced to world to some female boxing sports, and if she does 100 million, ugh, bravo, and bring in other female boxers and things like that where she can spar with and things like that, because she has a gift. She has it, and she wants to be just like her dad, and I know that scares her mommy, but I think she'll be all right. She has a really good trainer in her dad. um so yeah, that's my review of Creed. Before I go, I just want to say congratulations to everyone involved: Ryan Coogler, Jonathan Majors, Michael B. Jordan, Tessa, Salinas, Felicia, Rashad, Wood Harris, all of the fighters that trained and put your bodies through hell. The regimen, the discipline, bravo to all of you. It paid off. Creed right now has just crossed the 100 million mark. Their budget was 75 million, so they've already paid off what the studio did. I know it's going to keep growing. Michael B. Jordan joins the list of long Black um, men and women directors, like the Ava DuVernays, the Ryan Cooglers. I know I'm forgetting a lot of people, but he's in a great company to be a Black director, starring and directing, and you cross the 100 million worldwide march, and you are going to continue to grow. I see maybe 300 million in the future for this film. Um, Everyone, I believe, loves it in Hollywood. You guys brought it to the movies where it should be seen. I don't think this is the type of movie you would stream. It deserves to be seen on a big screen because of all the IMAX cameras that were used and the angles and everything. Bravo to you gentlemen, to you women. You killed it. I'm proud to have watched the movie and to review it. And bravo and continued success. Once again, my name is Crystal. Let me know in the comments if you watched it. Do you plan on seeing it? What were your thoughts? Did you like it? Where do you see Baby Creed going? What broke your heart? Oh yeah, and I did cry, but I won't tell you why, but I cried twice. But yeah, going forward, where do you see this Creed film franchise going? I want to see more, particularly with the daughter. I want to see Baby Creed and what she does. Till next time, you two. Bye.